Breaking news. We just got our hands on written testimony from the CEOs of Facebook and Alphabet, two of the three CEOs who will tomorrow face the Senate committee hearing. All right, this is from Facebook. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg is saying, and we can put up this quote here, "We believe in giving people a voice, even when that means defending the rights of people we disagree with. Free expression is central to how we move forward together as a society." And literally within the past couple of seconds, we got Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai's comment for his opening statement, quote, "We recognize that people come to our services with a broad spectrum of perspectives, and we are dedicated to building products that are helpful to users of all backgrounds and viewpoints." He will join Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey and, as we said, Facebook and Microsoft CEO on Google CEO on Capitol Hill in just about 18 hours. The three will face questions on whether the Communications Decency Act, which was passed back in 1996, known as Section 230, needs to be updated to reflect the way the world has changed. And we're talking about the internet and all that's swirling around there. Let's check in on the three stocks with just about 30 minutes left to trade. Actually, it'll be about 20 minutes here. We are higher for all three names, with Twitter seeing the biggest gain, up about 4.6%. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi is the Republican senator and the chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee hosting tomorrow's hearing. He is also the co-sponsor of a bill to update Section 230, joining us now in a Fox Business exclusive ahead of the tomorrow moment here. Senator, thank you for being here. What is your number one goal for tomorrow's hearing?
Well, we'd like to question these three CEOs because they actually are among the most powerful people in the country, if not the most powerful people on the planet. If you control the flow of news, if you control the flow of information, you are indeed powerful. And it's good to hear that their testimony tomorrow will embrace even-handedness. But I think recent examples, in particularly this New York Post story about Hunter Biden, they just indicate to a lot of us on the right that when it comes to policing what actually gets out to the public and what doesn't, there's a bit of bias on behalf of the liberal point of view and a whole lot more restriction to conservative thought. So that's part of what we'll ask about. But also, let me just say this, I don't want to filibuster, but this Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act is a provision that both President Trump and Vice President Biden have indicated should be repealed in its entirety. And so it seems to me this liability shield that these three powerful executives enjoy is under attack from both the right and the left, and I think they'll be getting questions from both Republicans and Democrats about, isn't it time for this special protection, which they have, but you don't have as a journalist, Liz. But these internet platforms have a special liability protection, and isn't it time for us at least to tighten up that language?
Senator, we never assume people know everything that's happened in the past couple of weeks, even though it's at the forefront of this actual event. And the trigger for it was that the New York Post had put together this article involving the son of Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and a laptop and all kinds of issues swirling around that. And Twitter did not allow it to be forwarded or shared. And that became a real point of contention for quite a few people. So how important will that be? And is this really kind of zeroing in on Twitter? And where does Google stand in all of that? They weren't really part of that issue. So we're going to
ask. Right. We'll ask Google about other examples. But yes, Twitter was, to me, outrageous in their response to that. And I'm sure the CEO of that company will want to talk about that. What they did, not only did they refuse to allow this New York Post story, the fifth largest newspaper in the country and the oldest newspaper in the country, they did not allow that information to go forward. They shut down the Twitter accounts of people who tried to retweet it. So it was an outrageous overreaction as far as I'm concerned. Now, I think the CEO of the company will tell us tomorrow that they revisited that and now that information can go forward. Facebook limited it in other ways, which were not quite as extreme. But you know, this is an example of someone who is a finalist for the most powerful position in the world, President of the United States, and an allegation that his son sold access to this potential president for millions and millions of dollars. And a couple of folks at these companies decided that information shouldn't go out to the public.
In that case, and then you can look at Facebook, where for so long they were allowing information to get out there on Facebook about, you know, from Holocaust deniers or white supremacy, which is really just short of inciting violence in many cases. It took them forever to come around, and in a way they've brought this upon themselves, this scrutiny on behalf of the U.S. government. But isn't this also a situation where senators may look at it, you got to say, be careful what you wish for, because Section 230, for people who don't quite understand, is basically, it says that no provider of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information that happened to pass through it. So their hands are off, they're not responsible. If you do make them responsible, do you then not risk having the entire system shut down? And because they will be so protective, they're not going to let anything out there.
Well, that's a concern I have. I share that concern, and you've stated it well. My proposal would not repeal Section 230, lock, stock, and barrel. But what 230 does now is it allows these platforms to take down anything they view as objectionable. Now, to me, objectionable is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. And we need to get rid of that language. If we want to specify advocacy of illegal actions, advocacy of terrorism, self-harm, things like that, that people know the meaning of, I think that would be far better. But when you say whatever someone in some CEO's office thinks is objectionable, to me that gives them too much leeway and basically the right to censor whatever they disagree with.
We will be watching it. We will be carrying much of it. Senator Roger Wicker will be the head of it. We'll be really very much involved in this story, and we appreciate you coming on here exclusively to talk about it ahead of time.
Thank you very
Senator.
much. These subpoenas were issued on a bipartisan, unanimous basis, so there's concern on both sides.
Well, at least some things are bipartisan in D.C. Thank you. Another